So I heard Dissidia is trying to make a comeback, and we all know how I feel about that game. So Dissidia is this game that I played a long time ago, and I'm talking about the PSP era where it came out. I played both Dissidia, the Japanese version, the English version, and Duodecim, the Japanese version and the English version, and I really loved the game. The game had a very unique kind of battle system where you're in a very large arena. You had to fight another character who's basically on the other side of the world, but you get close and you steal something called bravery. That bravery is used for your HP attack to do the actual damage, and there's a ton of mechanics in that, like the summons that you can use, the brave break system, and the plethora of combos you can use because the characters all played differently. It had their unique kind of style, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, the game was not as popular as it was in America or the rest of the world, but the very few who actually did love Dissidia was given Dissidia NT quite some time later on the PlayStation 4. Now, I and a friend named Calcora, who gifted the game to me, played the game plenty of times. We've actually tried to invest ourselves into Dissidia NT, especially myself and plenty of my friends, but me, I just couldn't get into it. Dissidia was a game that was so flawed, and I wanted to love it. I've picked up pretty much most of the heavy characters, kind of the frontlinesmen, or in this case, the Vanguard. Now, we all know that the Vanguard are supposed to be slow, but they really hit hard, and they're supposed to be the ones that have, you know, extra HP, and they're supposed to be super strong, and they're supposed to be like the ones that you go to if you want to actually hit them really hard. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that loves to play with heavy characters in any fighting game. I play with Bowser as my main in Super Smash Bros., so you could see why I played a lot of Garland, who got me all the way up into, like, the Diamond tier, and then there's Cloud, there's the Warrior of Light, and then there's Sephiroth. Now, I played pretty much with all the Vanguard, but Sephiroth was my main boy. He was very tricky and very hard to master, but Sephiroth is my boy. So the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I have a certain conniption with them bringing back Dissidia NT. I really want them to make the game as good as possible, and one of the big things about Dissidia NT that really got me, which really threw me off, was the fact that the internet was bad, and, well, just the gameplay itself. And I know, as a guy who's in love with Dissidia, I should probably compromise with all this, but there was too many flaws within Dissidia that I just couldn't get around with. You have the fact that you're playing with a 3v3 base kind of arena style battle game, and you're not really set with like one character or one opponent that you're fighting against three essentially, and if your team is not working with you, you're essentially SOL. So it's about teamwork, it's about playing with your friends or the random people that you get together with, and sometimes that was hard because the internet was crap and it was pretty much just like a queue time in any MMO. It takes up to 10 minutes, even 20. I've sat there for 15 minutes waiting for somebody and still nothing. And it just didn't work out, and I know they're fixing it. I know they fixed a lot of that issue in the PlayStation 4, but I don't have a PlayStation 4 anymore, and I don't have Dissidia NT on the PlayStation 4, and I pretty much gave up on that game, but they're going to bring out for free on the PC, and I've already been hearing stories. For one, the internet, again, and I thought they would have just gotten this clear. I mean, it's the PC, for God's sake. How could they mess this up? The online connection is bad. It's just as bad, if not worse, than it was on the PlayStation 4, and it seems like they just didn't learn. Now, the PlayStation 4 version, they had to go through hell just to get that to be working properly, or just okay, but here on the PC, even if you're trying to do cross-compatibility with the PC and the PlayStation 4, which they can, and they will, I'm pretty sure, and if they already did it, then that statement is just invalid, but it's the PC. They should already have something going on in terms of online connection with the PC. And that was one of the biggest gripes. If I didn't have such an online history of terrible, crappy, laggy, crappy, I had to say it twice just to make sure that you know that it was bad, then you would know that it was just a horrible experience. So the fact that they're trying to bring it back and they're still shooting for that whole esports thing, well, I can commend them for their perseverance, but to be honest, I still don't see if they, I don't see it. I just can't see if they are actually trying their best to make this a game for everyone. For one thing, they still don't have a practice mode. The other thing is that if we're talking about competitiveness and a fighting world, fighting game world, there has to be some way for you to fight by yourself. I mean, the suggestion of having 2 assist characters that are computers that'll come out with a certain button is something of a big thing in the fighting game community, and it's just played off with this person has to play with you or this computer has to play with you, which, by the way, that's still a problem with a computer coming in if you don't have anybody else to play with you because you can't find a matchmaking that is correct. The matchmaking is still bad, so I can see where that's going. And a lot of people do have friends, can play with friends online, kind of like how Apex Legends is doing its thing like that, unless you want randos. I'm just saying, if you're going to make a competitive game, you need to make sure that you have all, and I mean all of the measures taken to make sure that it's fun for like anybody who wants to come in. If they're kind of like the lone wolf, there should be a mode where they can actually fight by themselves. And if they're the type of people that do want to fight with other people, then yeah, be sure to have that in there, but make it work, you know? I say this with the utmost love that I do love Dissidia as a series. I do want to see them succeed, and I do want to see them, like, in my hand, being competitive in EVO, even, if that's ever going to be possible. But there isn't a real esports scenario with Dissidia NT if the focus is going to be team play, especially like this. EVO doesn't have a lot of big games where you have 3 people fighting against other 3 people. Of course, there are always the scene where you have Overwatch and you have Fortnite, I guess, and you know, even Fortnite you can play by yourself, but it's not the thing that with a fighting game, those are games that are different genres, and fighting games like Street Fighter, like Unist, or you know, Under Night In-Birth, or Super Smash Brothers, something, they all can be played with teams. Well, not Street Fighter, but they can be played with teams or Under Night In-Birth. The point is that if you want to get your game into the fighting game community, if you want people to take your game seriously, you need to make major changes. Some of those major changes, and I hope somebody up there is listening, is to actually put in a practice mode or a way to test out moves. The other thing I would suggest is making an honest to goodness way for somebody to play by themselves. I understand that is not your focus. I've been told that that is not the game's focus. The focus is to be team played, but you have to be honest. And I have to be honest, the fighting game community is usually solo, with lone wolves making it to the top. Games like League of Legends, Dota, and Overwatch, and many more have team play, but they're not fighting games. They're not games where you're testing your mettle against another person. You know, you're doing fisticuffs in a virtual world, showing who's better at clicking and tapping. But, you know, in this case, we're talking about League of Legends and Dota, which involves a lot of strategy. And yeah, I get it, Dissidia NT also involve a lot of strategy, but what kind of strategy can you get when you look at something like this?
Oh my god! Did you see all 3 of them were incapacitated?
Did you just seriously pull that off?
Strategy honestly flies out the door when you have people going all over the place, targeting somebody. You can have somebody target you and have their teammates target you, singling you out and killing you all at once. You might say, oh, but that's what your partner is there for. But when your partner is dead or gone or incapacitated, you're facing 2 or even 3 people who pretty much own you. And I know the fights are meant to be that way, where you're at a disadvantage when you lose a person in your party, but it's just not a fighting game to me if something as big as that is your disadvantage. And I've seen people do crazy stuff by coming back with just being that one person who actually wrecks 2 other people, 3 other people, but the disadvantage is still real. And it doesn't become fun at all. It becomes very pitiful and pitiable to the person who you're doing against. And honestly, I'm more excited to see when somebody comes back from that very small sliver of health in a fighting game like Street Fighter, where they come back and beat the guy who had like a full bar. and that's just amazing. Meanwhile, Dissidia is not like that at all. I mean, honestly, I can go on and complain about Dissidia all the time, but here's the thing. Dissidia, I like you as a franchise. I like you as a series. I love your gameplay. I do. NT has good gameplay. It's very smooth, it's good on the eyes, and to be honest, I would love to see this franchise come back with a vengeance and actually see it in an esports scene. I mean, to be honest, if it ever shows up in any kind of esports scene, it should be because it's a fighting game where one person is going against the other. And I know I emphasize that, but I honestly think that's how it should have been in the first place. 1v1, not 3v3. Giving us that option would have probably been a good piece of help. Also, you know, fixing the online and stuff, and making sure that all the characters are actually completely balanced. We already have where marksmen are just owning the show, and those who are really good at being assassins and vanguards have to put in like double the work. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? I know I sounded pretty negative in this video, but to be honest, I really do want Dissidia to be well out. I really do want to see them have a resurgence, but I don't know if they can do it with NT. I honestly think they need a rehaul of the whole entire game and structure it in a way that it was in a traditional sense, where you can actually pick and choose the combos and moves that you had, just like in the PSP, making your character more unique, making it 1v1, and then the online would actually be a lot smoother because you're not trying to fight it out with 6 people, just 1 versus 1. And that's my opinion on that. Anyway, go ahead and leave what you think in the comments below, share the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.